What's up, everyone? It's Friday, and that means I'm going to put out some more content for you guys. And this week, we're going to be talking about the first training experience I've ever had with JBS Training Group. We're also going to be talking about some of the gear that I brought to the class. Going to be talking about how, some things have changed with my gear since I've taken the class. And then we're going to be talking about the perspective of someone who's never taken a class before as to why they would ever do this. So stick around. I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's get to it. So right off the bat, a lot of people might ask themselves, why should I spend $500, $600, up to $1,000 to hear someone else tell me how to shoot? I can stand at 25 yards and hit all, X ring and a B8. Good for you. So it's kind of like pushing yourself. Are you happy with staying where you are? For me, I had never done a course, and I wanted to know what it's about, because if you watch channels like T-Rex Arms, Garantham, any of the big guys on YouTube, the thing they push is just training, and it's really just to kind of expose yourself to things you never heard of. So I kind of bit the bullet because one of my friends was actually booking a trainer. His name is Mark Smith, so JBS Training Group. They're out of South Carolina. It's actually, I think it's just one guy, but anyways, so he booked a course down where I live, and I said, you know what, I'll sign up. So paid the fee, got the ammo, which, we won't talk about the ammo situation currently because that sucks. We didn't shoot all the rounds that it required. I will have you guys know that, but I understand ammo availability sucks. But anyways, with that aside, I, had the available equipment that it said to bring, which, kind of basic equipment, a belt, I have my belt, a retention holster. He recommends getting a retention holster just because, we're going to be like running around, and you don't, apparently he's had a bunch of students with, lost items from their belt, whether that be guns or ammo. Then he had just, carbine. So this is the carbine that I brought to the course, which is my Knight's Armament SR15 Mod 2 CQB. So I was running that. And we'll go over the gun here in a second, but this is the rifle I took to the class. So with all that material that I brought to the class, did I have anything I wanted to change? Well, yes and no. So Mark Smith is actually a big proponent of, lower optics rather than the large height over bore like the Skyscraper or the Unity, just because he knows that a bunch of people have trouble compensating for that height over bore. I will be the first to tell you that I was the one who struggled with the height over bore. Anyone who knows anything about the Knight's Armament Skyscraper is that it was built for night vision use. That heads up posture is, a much more comfortable shooting angle, especially with night vision, but its height over bore, meaning the center line of the optic versus the center line of the bore, is pretty exaggerated. So what that does is it changes where you're going to be aiming at close yards. So we were shooting at targets, from 10, 15, 20, all the way to 50. So that, the point of aim where I was changed dramatically. So if you're running one of these optics, and I know they're getting super popular, because Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff, if you're running one of these optics, train your height over bore, train your holdovers. I can't stress that enough. It was drilled into me that whole weekend, and I will never forget where to aim on a 25-yard target, especially if it's a hostage. Don't shoot the hostage. 7 down, 8 down, 9 down, 10, take a break. A little more about, kind of my rifle and what I brought to the class versus the consensus of the class. I was the only one who was running a flip to side magnifier. I just, I'm playing around with it. I always, change up my gear. A lot of people were running LPVOs, so low powered variable optics. Most common one out there was the Vortex Gen 3, 1 to 10, but, there were various ones out there. One thing I would say that would shine about the LPVO is that you have all of it in one. So me, I have to consciously flip to the side, and it kind of gets in the way of your left, versus a lot of the guys when they're switching from close engagements to from like 10 to 15 yards. When they were switching to 75 or 50, and just throw over lever. So it's kind of a different thing. I'm not necessarily sure that I'm going to get rid of the skyscraper, but everyone else was pretty much running an LPVO. I will eventually talk about my belt, but it is currently evolving. As you can tell, there's not much on it other than my pistol and some mag pouches, but that will be coming soon. Little shameless plug for Blue Alpha. These are one of the best belts you can buy. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Pistol is the most neglected thing I own. I know I'm not good at it, and I was pretty negligent and not practicing my fundamentals, strictly because we live in a society where 9mm is as expensive as 5.56, which is outrageous. So I've been neglecting my pistol shooting, and it showed on the course. But when we were going through drills, I'll go ahead and check that it's clear. When we were going through drills, the biggest thing that I learned that Mark taught me was to, as you're drawing from the holster, to be prepping your trigger, because that slight bit of movement, it moves your dot a bunch. Talking about the dot, he taught me something that I'd never heard before, which is pretty ingenious. Basically, it's watch the dot. So basically his big thing is to call shots based on what your optic is telling you. And I know it sounds really simple, and it is really simple, but hearing that and kind of focusing on that changed my shooting a bunch. So at the beginning of the drill, or at the beginning of the class, we did a qualification drill from 10, 15 yards, I can't remember, but basically my groups are all over the place. And on the second day when we did the final circuit, my groups were, leaps and bounds ahead, just because I was thinking on trigger prep when I was drawing, and then also just focusing on that dot. It's crazy what you can do when you're looking through your optic. You put all these optics on your rifles and pistols, but then we're just pretty much going on instinct versus going on what the optic is telling us. So my Glock did well. It had no hang-ups or anything like that. But I will say that something I'm going to be looking into, let me know in the comments if you have experience with the extended slide release. But as you know, for right-handed shooters, when you're shooting with your grip, a lot of the times your thumb wants to go over the slide stop and then override it, and then you have an empty chamber. So might be something I do in the future, but who knows. So as someone who's never had any formal training experience, this class was awesome. I hear a lot of people complaining about a lot of the classes they go to are ran by, big Instagram names or YouTube names or, intimidating military guys. And, it's like you can put yourself in a different mindset when you're with someone that they're famous. And it's not really cohesive or conducive to good learning. Mark did a really good job at putting everything in terms that we could understand. And one thing that I can't thank him enough for is just getting your own style. So he will show, and a big proponent of a big component of his class is that he actually gets up there, runs the drill. You can see what it looks like in person. He's not just making up a number that you should hit. So he would always show you various ways and then kind of figuring out your own way. And there were some people that were there that were really good shooters. So there were, law enforcement, mil guys, but they all kind of learned something based on trying new things. And that is something I can't stress enough for you guys who think you're really good shooters, and you might be really good shooters. I have no doubt that you're better at shooting a pistol than me. But just hearing it from different people, seeing it from different people, that can improve your skill so much, because there is not a one-size-fits-all approach to anything. The name of the game in anything we do nowadays is modularity and adaptability. Anything like that. So if you yourself are both adaptable and modular, you could stand to learn a lot. So I'm not going to go too much in detail over this rifle, just because I want to kind of, dedicate its own video, just because there's a lot to go over. But for those of you who don't know, this is my Knights Armament SR15 Mod 2 CQB. A lot of words. We'll go over what those mean in another video, but basically this is my Knights Armament factory rifle, and it ran like a champ. So the Mod 2 gas system has done wonders for me. There were a few weird things that were going on in the class that I'm not going to mention, but Mod 2 gas system worked perfectly for me. Had no reliability issues related to the rifle. I will say there was some magazine related issues as far as not locking the back every time, but or not locking an empty mag, I should say. So, but I did run my Surefire suppressor. Those of you who have Surefire suppressors, you'll know that if you shoot them a lot, you can't get them off, and that's the current situation. So, yeah, this is now welded to my flash hider. So, this is the configuration I ran the rifle in. Those of you, who do competition shooting, you will notice that this is a lot heavier than it needs to be for the class. I did it on purpose, just because I wanted to get used to running the rifle that I have, how I have it set up as kind of like a do-it-all gun, and I didn't want to handicap myself at all. I wanted to, have some accountability as far as, can I hold this thing for, 5 hours straight? And it worked perfectly. I was definitely the limiting factor, just as I am with a handgun, but I just wanted to tell you guys that this is the real deal. I mean, I really ran this to the ringer, put about 900 rounds in a day, and then did it again. So that was pretty awesome. So just like I said earlier, I am not the best at pistols. I will be the first to admit that I'm not, but I will tell you right off the bat that without this RMR, it would have been miserable. I will say that pretty much 99% of the class had an RMR, and they were doing amazing things with them. I will say that if you're considering on taking a class, I might include this as a prerequisite in case you're, not proficient with this pistol. If you're, nailing a B8 at, 50 yards with iron sights, then good for you. You're probably fine. But this RMR worked wonders as far as getting it on target at distance. I will say it is kind of like my crutch. I'm going to be the first to admit it. But as far as training yourself with an RMR, it can translate directly to iron sights, and I had no issues with that. Having these base plates on the magazines was awesome, just because it helped with malfunction drills and reload drills. I would strongly recommend, if you can find some, picking up some of these 19X extended mags, or if you want to find some base plates. There are some good base plates out there, but I just found a good deal on some 19X mags. So if you're thinking about taking a training course, I would strongly recommend to do it, because I have learned things that I can carry with me for, forever. I have learned so much in 2 days that I can work on for 2 years if I wanted to. If you're wanting to enhance your skills, learn some new skills, or just simply enjoy shooting, it was a lot of fun. Do it. I cannot recommend JBS Training Group enough. I will go ahead and leave a comment below where you can find and see if they're coming to your area. And if you want to book them out, he was very welcome to, going to our range and trying out a new facility. Can't recommend him enough. Mark is a really good guy, and I appreciate learning from him. And I think you guys will too. That's not to mention that, or that's not to say that he's the only one that I would recommend. Just get out there. Train with some guys who know some things, and you will, enhance your skill. Thank you guys for watching. I know this is a little bit different. This is more of like a discussion, but if you guys like these more discussion type videos, I have been thinking about creating a podcast channel or a video cast channel. So that being said, I will see you guys next Friday.